Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're going to have some fighting words. In this video, I want to talk about the press conference with Canelo and Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. Boo Boo has a history of just running up on people at press conferences. And listen, I'm not mad at him for doing it. You got to do what you got to do, and sometimes you might not be the most recognizable or noticeable fighter in the world or person in the world, where you got to do what you got to do to make a little noise, shake the cage, rattle things up, and that's what he's doing. He tried it with the Charlos a few years back. Unfortunately, him and both Charlos are still Twitter beefing, like maybe 4 years later. And he tried it with Canelo Alvarez. And Canelo is definitely working on his English. he understands the F word, so like, I can tell you that. I feel sorry for Demetrius Andrade, to be honest with you. You know, when you have a style like his and you don't necessarily have the biggest fan base, it's hard to get noticed. It's hard to get recognition. It's hard to get people excited about what you do. More importantly, opposition. Because he wants the Billy Joe Saunders fight, which I definitely think he should go for that right now. I think that's the fight for him to make, honestly. And I think it'd be the biggest name that he's like ever had if he were to go for the Billy Joe Saunders fight. He wants Triple G, but he also wants Canelo. What are the odds he's going to get a Triple G or a Canelo? Very, very, very slim. For Canelo, it's not a thing of he doesn't have a big enough name, because I mean Canelo fought Yildirim. Canelo fought Callum Smith. You know, so I don't think it's a thing of names. Like Canelo said, you know, you haven't fought anybody, and he's right. But that's not because of Boo Boo. He hasn't fought anybody because nobody with a name will fight him, because they know he's a problem. So they won't fight him. So it's not on his admission. It's not like he's trying to duck people. They've been ducking him for years. So then Demetrius, which it was silly for him to say, but he just said it back. Like, oh, who have you fought? Even, you know, Canelo had to laugh at that. Like, are you kidding me? I fought Floyd Mayweather. Are you kidding me? You know, that alone should just put me in another, well, that alone does put him in another stratosphere, especially in comparison to, you know, Demetrius Andrade. But you got to do what you got to do. You got to rattle the cage, and sometimes if you got enough beef going, he might get so mad and say, all right, fine, let's make the fight. I'm tired of your talking. Let's do it. It's happened in the past. It could very well happen now. I mean, I think for Boo Boo, you already got some traction going. You got some views. You got some clicks. Keep pushing. I'm not saying that he does the Shannon Briggs and let's go champ, and I'm not saying all that. But what I am saying is you got some traction. You just got to keep going. There's a little bit of a buzz. If you make a big enough noise, it may not necessarily be what Canelo wants, but if you make a big enough noise and we, the people, the viewers, the consumers, we say, well, we're interested, Canelo will see the dollar signs in that. Triple G will see the dollar signs in that. Eddie Hearn will see the dollar signs into that. And they will invest in that. They will definitely at least have the conversation. I'll give it that much. It's worth a shot, because at the rate that he's going, nobody with a notable name is going to step in the ring with him. Both Charlos have said several times that they'll never fight him. Triple G has been silent on all fronts. He's never, I don't even think he's ever said his name like in public. This is the first time that I've seen him and Canelo interact, and Canelo seemed utterly disgusted with it, to be honest with you. He also said that Boo Boo was trash. He was like, you're not a good fighter. And I think Canelo's looking at Demetrius' last two outings, his last two fights, in which case he didn't look the most impressive. But I think Canelo's looking at the Demetrius who's trying to make a name for himself by becoming a knockout artist, as opposed to that slick, smooth, smart technical boxer that we all know him as prior to those two fights, his last two fights. I would like to believe that Canelo knows exactly who Demetrius Andrade is. Do I think he's on his radar? No, I don't think he's on his radar. I think Canelo is either looking for really, really big fights or fights that will get him more belts. Demetrius will move up. I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to see that fight. I seriously doubt it would happen. I think Demetrius Andrade fighting Billy Joe Saunders would make a whole lot more sense right now, especially after Saunders' loss. However, he does have a broken orbital bone, so honestly, that's probably a few months, maybe even a year before he gets back in. So I don't really know. I don't really know if that's like realistic, because who wants to wait that long? You know, and then the reality is you do wait a long time, but then you're going up against somebody who's considered damaged goods. So I don't really know, you know, to be honest with you, where he goes from here. You know, does he just keep fighting the B fighters because the A-listers won't fight him? Or does he continue to do what he just did on Saturday night and rattle that cage and rattle it so hard that Canelo just gets annoyed, Triple G gets annoyed, the Charlo twins, they get annoyed. Everybody's just annoyed to say, you know what, we got to do something about this guy. I'm going to go fight him just to shut him up. You know, if I'll put him away and then we'll never have to worry about him again. If that's the way you're going, if you're going to be the bad guy, then you need to fully commit to being the heel and being the bad guy. That means show up at every press conference. Every time you have an interview, you mention their name and you dog them out. Do what you got to do. Bully them into a corner. If that's what you're going to do. If this seems to be your tactic, and it does seem to be his tactic, you just can't stop at the press conference and like, well, that was that. Now we'll just leave it up to fate. No, now you have to take it to the people. You have technology in your hands. You have an Instagram. You've already applied a little pressure. Now you have to keep on with the pressure. And then maybe, just maybe, because quite frankly, I think Demetrius Andrade in the ring with Canelo would do what I thought Billy Joe Saunders would have done. Use the ring. Use your height and reach. Use these things. Every once in a while, you got to make a boring fight. And then, I'm sorry, you're going to have to make it up to the fans later. You know, I just had to get through this one, but I promise you the next one's going to be a knockout. I promise I'll be a lot more entertaining. I'll be a lot more aggressive. I'll give you something to cheer and root for. But right now, this one's a little too dangerous for me to be playing those little games. I need to play it safe, and I need to just stick to my guns, stick to a solid game plan, and just make it through. That's what I would do, you know. But for Boo Boo, if you are listening, don't stop now. You already made some noise. You got some views. Keep going. Take a page from these YouTubers. Take a page from them. What they do, they call people out, but they don't let them rest. So, like I said, you got the traction. Keep going with it. But those are my thoughts. You tell me what you think down below. And as always, like and subscribe.